it was. Like, what is he thinking about? So where are we today? Oh, there's a bookmark. Great. Okay, so you read about yesterday?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
These flowers up here, they're permanent? These up here,
No, they'll come down at some stage. They were put up there for a festival. I forget which one. So we've gone through the portions, or the portion where Mahaprabhu's different types of manifestations are described. This is Antya-lila chapter 2, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Antya-lila chapter 2. And the basis of Mahaprabhu's appearances in this regard, Avirbhav, Shakshat, Avesh, is a pull, the pull of the love of his devotees.
What text is it?
88. The pull of the love of his devotees. That is the basis of Mahaprabhu being attracted, manifesting in these various ways. House of Srivas Pandit, Kirtan of Srivas Pandit, kitchen of Sachimada, Raghava Pandit, and Nityananda Prabhu's dancing. These are 4 places where the idea is that because of the intensity of the devotion expressed through these acts, the dancing, the cooking, etc., the kirtan, that Mahaprabhu cannot help but come and manifest himself. Thus I have described the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Anyone who hears about these incidents can understand the transcendental opulence of the Lord. At Jagannath Puri, in the association of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, lived Bhagavan Acharya. Oh, how far through this did we get? Oh, you got away through this, didn't you? You've read this bit. It's all under control. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Text 94. Buddhi Brasta Haila Tomara Gopalera Sange Mayavada Shunibari Upajila Range. You have lost your intelligence in the association of Gopal, and therefore you are very eager to hear the Mayavada philosophy. Vaishnavahana yeba sharirakabasye shune sevya sevaka bhavachari apanere ishwaramane. When a Vaishnav listens to the Sharirakabhasya, the Mayavad commentary upon Vedanta Sutra, he gives up the Krishna conscious attitude that the Lord is the master and the living entity is his servant. Instead, he considers himself the Supreme Lord. Mahabhagavataye Krishna Pranadana Yara Mayavada Shravane Chitta Avasya Piritanra. The Mayavad philosophy presents such a jugglery of words that even a highly elevated devotee who has accepted Krishna as his life and soul changes his decision when he reads the Mayavad commentary on Vedanta Sutra. Acharya Kahe Amasabara Krishna Nishtajite Amasabara Manabasya Nara Piraite. In spite of Swarup Damodara's protest, Bhagavan Acharya continued, "We are all fixed at the lotus feet of Krishna with our hearts and souls. Therefore, the Sharirakabhasya cannot change our minds. Swarupa kahe tatapi mayavada shravane chit brahma maya mitya e matra shune." Swarup Damodar replied, "Nevertheless, when we hear the Mayavad philosophy, we hear that Brahman is knowledge, and that the universe of Maya is false, but we gain no spiritual understanding. Jiva jnana kalpita ishware sakala I ajnana yahara shravane bhaktira prate mana prana." The Mayavad philosopher tries to establish that the living entity is only imaginary, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is under the influence of Maya. Hearing this kind of commentary breaks the heart and life of a devotee. Lajabaya panacharya mona haila aradina gopalera deshe pataila. Thus Bhagavan Acharya, greatly ashamed and fearful, remained silent. The next day he asked Gopal Bhattacharya to return to his own district. Ekadina Acharya prabhure kaila nimantrana kare bata kare Vividha Vyanjana. One day, Bhagavan Acharya invited Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to dine at his home. Thus, he was preparing rice and various types of vegetables. Chota Haridasa Nama Prabhura Kirtaniya Tahare Kahena Acharya Dakya Aniya. A devotee named Chota Haridas used to sing for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Bhagavan Acharya called him to his home and spoke as follows. Mora name siki mihitira bhagine stanigiya shukla chola eka mana anaha magiya. Please go to the sister of Siki Mahiti in my name and ask her for a manna of white rice and bring it here. Mahitera Bhagini se Nama Madhavi Devi Briddha Tapasvini Ara Parama Vaishnavi. Siki Mahiti's sister was named Madhavi Devi. She was an elderly lady who always performed austerities. She was very advanced in devotional service. She was elderly. Briddha. Prabhuleka kare yare radhikare gana jagatera madhye patra sade tina jana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted her as having formerly been an associate of Srimati Radharani. In the entire world, 3.5 people were his intimate associates. 3.5. He's going to tell us who they are. Swarupa Goswami Ara Rai Ramananda Siki Mahiti Tina Tanra Bhagini Ardhajana. The 3 were Swarup Damodar Goswami, Ramananda Rai, and Siki Mahiti, and the half a person was Siki Mahiti's sister. She was a woman, so she was half. No, not quite. There's reasons for it. Because she, at one stage, she was part of the Kirtan group. She became the only woman, pretty much, in the group.
Oh, really?
But there were protests because the woman in the group, with one woman in the group, kind of changed the dynamic. Some of the men started behaving a bit differently. So she was at some stage maybe voluntarily withdrew herself from the group. So because she was considered dear to Mahaprabhu but not part of his kind of association, so to speak, she's a half. Yeah, because she was like there but not there. Tanratani Tandula Magi Anila Haridasa Tandula Deki Acharyera Adhika Ulasa. After begging the rice from her, Junior Haridas brought it to Bhagavan Acharya, who was very pleased to see its quality. Snehe Randila Prabhura Priyaye Vyanjana Deula Prasada Arichakilembu Salavana. In great affection, Bhagavan Acharya cooked varieties of vegetables and other preparations dear to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He also obtained remnants of food from Lord Jagannath and digestive aids such as ground ginger and lime with salt. Madhyane Asiya Prabhu Bhojane Vasila Salyana Deki Prabhu Acharye Puchila. At noon, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to eat the offerings of Bhagavan Acharya, he first appreciated the fine rice and therefore questioned him. Utama ana eta tandula kanhate paila Acharya kahe maravi pasha magiya anila. Where did you get such fine rice? The Lord asked. Bhagavan Acharya replied, I got it by begging from Madhavi Devi. Prabhu kahe konyai magiya anila chota haridasera nama acharya rahila kahila. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked who had begged the rice and brought it back, Bhagavan Acharya mentioned the name of Junior Haridas, Chota Haridas. Ana prasam mesya Prabhu Bhojana Karila Nija Grihe Asi Govindere Agyadila. Praising the quality of the rice, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu partook of the prasad. Then, after returning to his residence, he gave the following order to Govinda, his personal assistant. Ajihaite e moda agya paliba chota haridase ihan asete nadiba. From this day forward, do not allow Chota Haridas to come here. Dvaramana haila haridasa duki haila mane kilagia dvaramana ke hanahijane. When Junior Haridas heard that he had been ordered not to approach Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was very unhappy. No one could understand why he had been ordered not to come. Tinadina haila haridasa kare upavasa Swarupari Asi Puchila Mahaprabhura Pasa. Haridas fasted continuously for 3 days. Then Swarup Damodar Goswami and other confidential associates approached Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to inquire from him. Kon aparada Prabhu Kaila Haridasa Kila Gia Dvara Manakari Upavasa. What great offense has Junior Haridas committed? Why has he been forbidden to come to your door? He has now been fasting for 3 days. Prabhu kahe vairagi kari prakriti sambasana dikite na paron amitan haravadana. The Lord replied, I cannot tolerate seeing the face of a person who has accepted the renounced order of life, but who still talks intimately with a woman. Durvara indriya kare vishaya grahana daravi prakriti hare munirapimana. So strongly do the senses adhere to the objects of their enjoyment, that indeed a wooden statue of a woman attracts the mind of even a great saintly person. Matra svasra duhitra va nave vikta shano bhavet balavan indriya gramo vidvamsam apikarshati. One should not sit closely with one's mother, sister or daughter, for the senses are so strong that they may attract even a person advanced in spiritual knowledge.
With their own sister, daughter or mother?
Yeah.
Wow.
Very strict standards. This is the standard for a vairagi. Vairagi is a sannyasi. Maybe not always a sannyasi, but a vairagi is a renunciate. Vairag, renunciation. So for a person who's practicing renunciation, the basis of renunciation is, well, one of the key practices of renunciation is celibacy. And to practice celibacy properly, the mind needs to be controlled. As soon as a little seed of lust enters the mind, then it can germinate, and the fruit that it bears is the ruination of one's vairagya. So the point here of the strict discipline is to prevent a little seed of desire, calm, from entering the mind. So whatever is necessary, even a very strict, sometimes fanatical practice is recommended. At least they're giving the kind of extreme practices are given here in relation to this particular incident.
Just a detail, it's about not being in presence of a woman alone in her presence, right? But women and men could be gathered in the same room or not?
Yes, they sit closely with one's mother, sister or daughter. But then it says the enjoyment that even a statue of a woman attracts the mind. Like a statue or a picture or a painting. There's an association is made, or something ignites stimulates the senses and ignites desire. It may seem a little fanatical, but the idea is, as described, that to prevent any small seed of desire germinating in the mind.
Yeah.
So that is the beginning of a continuum that can lead to the renunciation of renunciation. You renounce your practices, you renounce your vairagya, as a result of letting some small desire then develop in one's mind.
Just one question, please.
Yeah.
The woman we mentioned before, that would take part to the Sankirtan, right?
Yeah, I heard she was participating in the Kirtan group, yeah.
This is in Shiva's Pandit house?
No, this is in Jagannath Puri.
Okay, sorry. In
Shiva's
Shiva's Pandit house, would women be present in those?
I don't think so, no. Generally
Wife
speaking.
Yeah.
Probably not jumping around in the Kirtan, no. I mean, they'd be present in the vicinity. I don't think present in the actual Kirtan. Shudra jiva sabha markata vairagya karya indriya charana bole prakriti sambhasya. There are many persons with little in their possession who accept the renounced order of life, like monkeys. They go here and there, engaging in sense gratification and speaking intimately with women. Markata vairaga. Like the monkeys in the trees, they appear to be renounced by a certain external measure. They don't have any luxurious home, or perhaps any fixed home, and they don't have any expensive possessions, valuable possessions. They don't even wear clothes. They live in the trees. They eat the fruits and the leaves. So they're kind of living a very renounced life. But actually, if you observe them a little further, they're not renounced at all. They behave like monkeys. So it's called Markata Vairaga. Someone who kind of, by some maybe very superficial analysis, appears to be renounced, but is actually under the sway of sensual desire. These guidelines are for renunciates. These days, it seems they're relaxed a little bit. But back then, due to the social structure, they could be practiced. Now it's a little more difficult. So they may not be able to be implemented today. But back then, they were taken very strictly. But the principle behind them still needs to be honored. Etekahi Mahaprabhu abyantarigila gosanere avesha deke sabe mona haila. After saying this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered his room. Seeing him in such an angry mood, all the devotees fell silent. Aradine sabe mele prabhura charane haridasa lagi kichu kaila nivedane. The next day, all the devotees together approached the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to submit an appeal on behalf of Junior Haridas. Alpa aparada prabhu karaha prasada eba shiksha haila na karibe aparada. Haridas has committed a small offence, they said. Therefore, O Lord, please be merciful to him. Now he has received a sufficient lesson. In the future, he will not commit such an offence. Prabhu kahe moda vasa nahe moda mana prakriti sambasi vairagina kari darshana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, my mind is not under my control. It does not like to see anyone in the renounced order who talks intimately with women. Nijakarye yahasabe chara vrittakata punaha yadi kaha amanade ki biheta. You should all tend to your respective engagements. Give up this useless talk. If you speak this way again, I shall go away, and you will no longer see me here. Etasuni sabe nija karne hastadiya, nija karye sabe gilata utiya. Hearing this, all the devotees covered their ears with their hands, got up, and went about their respective duties. Mahaprabhu madhyana karite chali gela, bhujana nayaya e Mahaprabhu lila. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also left that place to perform his noon duties. No one could understand his pastimes. Aradina sabe paramananda puristane prabhu ke prasana kara kaila nivedane. The next day, all the devotees went to Sri Paramananda Puri and requested him to pacify the Lord. Tabe Puri Goshani Eka Prabhustane Aila Namaskari Prabhu Tanre Sambrame Vasaila. Paramananda Puri thereupon went alone to the residence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Lord, after offering him obeisances, seated him by his side with great respect. Puchila ke agya kene haila agaman haridase prasada lage kaila nivedan. The Lord inquired, what is your order? For what purpose have you come here? Paramananda Puri then submitted his prayer that the Lord show favor to Junior Haridas. Shuniyaka hena prabhu sunaha gosani sabha vaishnava lana tumiraha etani. Hearing this request, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, my dear Lord, please hear me. It is better for you to stay here with all the Vaishnavas. More agya haya muni yana alalanata ekalira hibatahan Govinda matrasata. Please give me permission to go to Alalanath. I shall remain there alone. Only Govinda will go with me. Eta bale prabhu yare Govinde bolaila purere namaskara kari Antya-lila. After saying this, the Lord called for Govinda. Offering obeisances to Paramananda Puri, he got up and began to leave. Aste vyasti puri goshani prabhu agegila anunaya kare prabhu re kare vasaila. In great haste, Paramananda Puri Goswami went before him and with great humility persuaded him to sit down in his room. Tomara ye icha kara svatantra ishwara kebaki balite pare tomara upara. Paramananda Puri said, my dear Lord Chaitanya, you are the independent personality of Godhead. You can do whatever you like. Who can say anything above you? Lokahita lage tomara sabhavyavahara ami sabai najani gambira hridaya tomara. All your activities are for the benefit of people in general. We cannot understand them, for your intentions are deep and grave. Etabali puri goshani gilani justane haridasa stane gila sabha bhaktagane. After saying this, Paramananda Puri Goswami left for his home. Then all the devotees went to see Junior Haridas. Swarupa Goswami kahe shuna Haridasa sabe tomara hitavanche karaha vishvasa. Swarup Damodar Goswami said, please hear us, Haridas, for we all wish you well. Please believe this.
How many Haridas are related to Mahaprabhu, the ones we hear about?
Just these two.
Junior Haridas and the other one is...
Yeah, they're not really connected to each other. They just have the same name.
What does Haridas mean?
Servant of Hari.
Oh, yeah.
Haridas.
Sorry. Yeah.
Servant of Hari. Yeah.
Okay.
Prabhu Hari. It's quite a common name. Haridas. Krishnadas. Very common names. Ramdas. Prabhu Hate Pariyache Swatantra Ishwara Kabu Kripa Kari Bena Yate Dayalu Antara. At present, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is persisting in his mood of anger because he is the independent Supreme Personality of Godhead. At some time, however, he will surely be merciful, for at heart he is very kind. Tumi hata kaile tanra hata sa badibe snana bojana kara apane krodha yabe. The Lord is persisting, and if you also persist, his persistence will increase. It is better for you to bathe and take prasad. In due course, his anger will automatically subside. Etabale tare snana bojana karana apana bhavana aila tare ashvasya. Having said this, Rup Damodar Goswami induced Haridas to bathe and eat, take prasad, and thus reassuring him, he returned home. Prabhu yade yana jagannatha darashane durirahe haridasa karina darshane. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to see Lord Jagannath in the temple, Haridas would stay at a long distance away and see him. Mahaprabhu kripa sindhu ke pare bhujite priya bhakti danda karene dharma bhujaite. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the ocean of mercy, who can understand him? When he chastises his dear devotees, he certainly does so to re-establish the principles of religion or duty. I'll read some of the purport here. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says in this connection that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the ocean of mercy, chastised Junior Haridas, although Junior Haridas was his dear devotee, to establish that one in the devotional line engaged in devotional service should not be a hypocrite. For a person engaged in devotional service in the renounced order, having intimate relationships with women is certainly hypocrisy. This chastisement was given to Junior Haridas as an example to future sahajas who might adopt the dress of the renounced order to imitate Rupa Goswami and other bona fide sannyasis, but secretly have illicit connections with women. To teach such men, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chastised his dear devotee Haridas for a slight deviation from the regulative principles. Srimati Madhavi Devi was a highly elevated devotee. Therefore, approaching her to ask for some rice to serve Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was certainly not very offensive. Nevertheless, just to preserve the regulative principles for the future, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu enforced the hard and fast rule that no one in the renounced order should intimately mix with women. Had Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu not chastised Junior Haridas for this slight deviation, so-called devotees of the Lord would have exploited the example of Junior Haridas to continue their habit of illicit connections with women unrestrictedly. Indeed, they still preach that such behavior is allowed for a Vaishnava. But it is strictly not allowed. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the teacher of the entire world, and therefore he enforced this exemplary punishment to establish that illicit sexual connections are never allowed in Vaishnava philosophy. This was his purpose in chastising Junior Haridas. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in fact the most magnanimous incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he strictly prohibited illicit sex. There is a text in Orissa that talks about this pastime or this incident, this history of Junior Haridas. Goes into more detail. Because here it seems, there's some that say that Kaviraj Goswami has given it quite light treatment in terms of this Haridas just approaching Madhavi Devi once at the behest of Madhavi Devi's brother. Sikhi Mahiti is Madhavi's brother. She's his sister. So he was cooking for Mahaprabhu, right? And he goes, "I'll go get some rice from my sister." So he goes and gets the rice from his sister. And then Mahaprabhu is pretty much ostracizes him. And of course, as we know, what happens? Haridas ends up committing suicide. He goes up and drowns himself in the Ganges. But it's said in some places that Kaviraj Goswami doesn't go into too much detail here, whether it's true or not, but that this Junior Haridas was in fact harassing Madhavi Devi, and on the pretext of begging was repeatedly going there to associate, to flirt, to attempt to impose himself on her, and that at one stage was actually physically assaulted by Sikhi Mahiti, who had caught him there at her house after him being warned on multiple occasions not to go there. So that he was kind of, you could say, almost stalking her and harassing her.
Jeez.
Yeah. How factual it is, I don't know. But to me, to my rational mind, it seemed to make a bit more sense, rather than him just once, at the request of someone else, to go and ask for rice. That's not that's not talking intimately with someone. It seems he was in violation of his brahmacharya. And, sannyasis, they do what's known as madhukara, which they go around and they beg food. Vairagis. It's traditional for them to go around and beg food. So in the process of that, surely they come in contact with women who give them food. It's not as if they can only get food from a man. I've never heard that. They get food from whoever gives them food in the house. So, for one instance of that, it seems like an unjust, egregious, over-the-top punishment. So it does seem that perhaps Kaviraj Goswami hasn't gone into details, but this Chota Haridas was kind of hitting on Madhavi Devi and attempting to have some secret, sneaky sexual activity. There's another text that actually talks about this. An Orissan text. That's all I can say. I can't comment for the veracity of it. All I can say is it does seem to make sense. Deketrasa upajila sababhakta gane svapneha chadila sabestri sambasane. After all the devotees saw this example, a mentality of fear grew among them. Trasa. Therefore, they all stopped talking with women, even in dreams. How they managed that, I don't know. They were talking with women in dreams before conversations.
Sorry, love. can't talk anymore. It's gone.
E mate haridasera ekavat saragela tabu mahaprabhura mane prasada nahila. In this way, a complete year passed for Junior Haridas, but still there was not a sign of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy toward him. Ratri avasheshe prabhure dandavat hana prayagete gela kareha kichuna balia. Thus, at the end of one night, Junior Haridas, after offering Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu his respectful obeisances, departed for Prayag without saying anything to anyone. Prabhupada prapti lage sankalpa karila triveni pravesha kari prana chadila. Junior Haridas had conclusively decided to attain shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thus he entered the deep into the water at Triveni, the confluence of the Ganges and the Yamuna at Prayag. In this way, he gave up his life. Se kshane divya dehe prabhu stane aila prabhu kripa pana antadane rahila. Immediately after committing suicide in this way, he went in his spiritual body to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and received the mercy of the Lord. However, he still remained invisible. Gandharva dehe gana karena antardane ratriye prabhure sunaya gita anye nahe jane. In a spiritual body resembling that of a Gandharva, Junior Haridas, although invisible, would sing at night for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to hear. No one but the Lord, however, knew of this. It's quite a funny story, isn't it? There's a picture of this. Oh, this is the picture on the front, see? This is Junior Haridas. Junior Haridas singing to Mahaprabhu.
Oh, wow.
They painted him as a Christian angel. Like, it's kind of, he's got the Christian angel wings, but he's sort of got a kind of a Indian crown, I guess. It's really kind of a syncretic depiction. Yeah. So that's Mahaprabhu on the beach at Puri, and Junior Haridas as a Christian angel has come back to sing. Definitely one of the earlier paintings, I think.
Would Chaitanya Mahaprabhu talk about that?
I think so, yeah. Because I think that's discussed right now, probably. I'll read a couple more verses. Ekadina Mahaprabhu Puchila Bhakta Gane Haridasa Kanha Tare Anaha Ekane. One day Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inquired from the devotees, "Where is Haridas? Now you may bring him here." Sabe kahe Haridasa Varsha Purna Dine Ratre Ute Kanha Gela Dikhe Nahi Jane. The devotees all replied, "One night at the end of a full year, Junior Haridas got up and went away. No one knows where he's gone." Shuni Mahaprabhu Isad Hasya Rahila Sababhakta Gana Mane Vishmaya Haila. While hearing the devotees lament, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was mildly smiling. Thus all the devotees were very astonished. Ekadina Jagadananda Swarupa Govinda Kashishwara Shankara Damodara Makunda Samudra Snane Gela Sabe Suni Kato Dure Haridasa Gayena Yena Dake Kantasware. One day Jagadananda Swarup Govinda Kashishwara Shankara Damodar and Makunda all went to bathe in the sea. They could hear Haridas singing from a distant place, as if calling them in his original voice. Manushyana deke madura gita matra sune Govindare sabe mele kaila anumane. No one could see him, but they could hear him singing in a sweet voice. Therefore, all the devotees, headed by Govinda, made this guess. Vishadi kana haridasa atmagata kaila se pape jane brahma rakshasa haila. Haridas must have committed suicide by drinking poison, and because of this sinful act, he has now become a Brahmana ghost. Akarana deki matra shuni taragana swarupaka hena e mitya anumana. We cannot see his material form, they said, but still we hear his sweet singing. Therefore he must have become a ghost. Swarup Damodar, however, protested, this is a false guess. Brahma Rakshasa says here, Vishadi Kana Haridasa Atmagata Kaila, Se Papi Jana Brahma Rakshasa Haila. Brahma Rakshasa. It's a particular type of ghost. When a Brahmana who has a lot of subtle power somehow ends up being disembodied for a prolonged period of time. You say disembodied, but not properly situated in the astral realms. So when one is disembodied, one dies essentially, but the mind cannot go to the interim realm. The mind, for whatever reason, is stuck in the physical vibration, physical realm. Then that's a ghost. So a Brahman ghost is a Brahmana who is, for whatever reason, had become a ghost. When I say become a ghost, it simply means a mind that is in the wrong place. Mm-hmm. So everyone becomes a ghost after the physical body dies. Mm-hmm. But their ghostly body goes to the appropriate place where they live between one physical incarnation and the next, one physical life and the next. It's in a somewhat more enlightened state, of course, because they're not confined by the limitations of the physical body. But if that mind, for whatever reason, has some kind of or particular karmas or attachments that cannot, for whatever reason, let go and travel to the interim destination that it needs to be, that it should be, then it becomes what we call in the physical world a ghost. Someone in a subtle body, without a physical body, that's hanging around in a place where they should have moved on from. So it's said that suicide could often, not necessarily always, I don't think, but often lead to someone being a ghost for a little while because it's such an unnatural way to die that it takes a while to process that. And their links have not been properly separated. There's all kind of got unresolved energies, karmas that are binding them to the physical world. So when a Brahmana becomes a ghost, for whatever reason, then it is said to have a peculiar effect. And it's called the Brahma Rakshasa. Sometimes it can be malevolent. So the Brahmana is, and the ghost form is using his subtle power to cause havoc in the physical environment. Brahma Rakshasa. They used to talk about in Mayapur that there was a Brahma Rakshasa living in a tree in Mayapur. This was a long time ago. And in Gurukul we used to hear stories, ghost stories. And they'd see the ghosts in Mayapur. The tantrics there working with the ghosts. This is one boy, he was walking across the rice fields in between the temple and the ashram, the Gurukul ashram. And he sees this effulgent-looking sannyasi walking the opposite way, coming towards him. And he says, "Oh, Maharaj, Dandavat," and he bows down. And the sannyasi has chicken feet. He's like, "Oh no, a sannyasi Rakshasa ghost." The sannyasi has chicken feet. And he gets up and the sannyasi is like, "Ha ha ha ha." And he's running to the ashram. That's just a story from a Gurukul boy, remember? It's not necessarily true. Young boys have good imaginations. Brahma Rakshasa. Anyway, so Junior Haridas is disembodied, and he returns not as a malevolent entity, but as someone who's hanging around and singing to the devotees and to Mahaprabhu. And then, okay, I'll just finish this. Ajanma Krishna Kirtan Prabhura Sevana Prabhu Kripa Patra Arakshetrera Marana. Junior Haridas chanted the Hare Krishna mantra throughout his entire life and served the Supreme Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Moreover, he is dear to the Lord and has died in a holy place. That was Swarup Damodar speaking. Durgati Nahaya Tara Sadgatin Sehaya Prabhu Bangi E Pache Janiba Nischaya. Haridas cannot have been degraded. He must have attained liberation. This is a pastime of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and you will all understand it later. Prayaga Haite Eka Vaishnava Navadvipa Aila Haridasera Vartatenho Sabare Kahila. A devotee returned to Navadvip from Prayag and told everyone the details of Junior Haridas's suicide. Yaiche Sankalpa Yaiche Trivene Praveshila Shuni Srivasadira Mane Vishmaya Haila. He explained how Junior Haridas has made his resolution and thus entered the waters at the confluence of the Yamuna and Ganges. Hearing these details, Srivas Thakur and the other devotees were very surprised. And Vasantere Shivananda Sabha Bhaktalana Prabhure Milila Ashe Ananditahana. At the end of the year, Shivananda Saint came to Jagannath Puri as usual, accompanied by the other devotees, and thus in great happiness met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Haridasa Kanha Yari Srivasa Puchila Svakarma Pala Buk Puman Prabhu Uttaradila. When Srivas Thakur inquired from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, "Where is Junior Haridas?" the Lord replied, "A person is sure to achieve the results of his fruitive activities. Tabe Srivasa Tara Vritanta Kahila Yaiche Sankalpa Yaiche Trivene Praveshila. Then Srivas Thakur related the details of Haridas's decision and his entering the waters at the confluence of the Ganges and Yamuna. Shuni Prabhu Hase Kahe Suprasana Chita Prakriti Darshana Kaile E Prayaschita. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard these details, he smiled in a pleased mood and said, "If with sensual intentions one looks at a woman, this is the only process of atonement." Swarupari Mili Tabe Vichara Karila Trivene Prabhave Haridasa Prabhupada Paila. Then all the devotees, headed by Swarup Damodar Goswami, concluded that because Haridas had committed suicide at the confluence of the rivers of the Ganges and Yamuna, he must have ultimately attained shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakti Vrinda. Sometimes it's a difficult pastime to comprehend, this one of Haridas, who ends up committing suicide. How would you explain it?
How to explain it? It's the Lord's labor, I guess. I don't really understand it.
There was one ISKCON sannyasi back in the 60s or 70s. They say he did the same. Vishnu Jan Swami. He was a famous singer in early ISKCON. Singer and preacher. And that's what they say he did. It's not 100% certain. It's still somewhat of a unconfirmed rumor, semi-substantiated rumor. If it's even semi-substantiated, I don't know. That's what they say happened. That he was... I mean, of course, it's kind of immature because, you can't really copy in the modern day, completely different time, cultural context. You can't really literally copy what goes on, as you mentioned, with Leela, Mahaprabhu and his associates. You cannot just copy that. quite easily, literally. If you want to copy certain bits, you have to copy everything. You want to live like the Goswamis? You want to copy the renunciation? You want to copy the renunciation of Raghunath Das Goswami? Or you just want to eat the feasts that you read about in the Chaitanya Charitamrita? You don't want the renunciation bit. You like the descriptions of all the feasts. You like the dancing and the kirtans. You like to do the dancing and the hoo-hoo-hoo. But when it comes to the renunciation, no. But certainly with this pastime, it's not to be copied. But, he's a young guy and he hadn't been around very long. So he took an extreme action, if indeed he did do that.
Don't try this at home.
Don't try it at home. You got a Triveni tub out the back. You can offer a service for fallen sannyasis. So they say, maybe he did. It's possible, because apparently he hasn't been seen since. But then I heard they said they saw him. He was running a newspaper stand on New York, like on the street selling newspapers. They reckoned it was him. But I guess that's unconfirmed too. It's probable. I think the majority consensus is that he did commit suicide in Triveni. Because he fell down. Or some say he didn't even properly fall down. Some say he was just had some kind of lusty desires and started beating himself up and it got out of control. And then others say that there was one authoritarian sannyasi who didn't like him because he was a competitor in the preaching field, and said to him, "You need to go and commit suicide." Yeah, it's a bit of a funny story. Funny story. And then when Prabhupada heard it, he said, "Oh, he didn't need to do that. That was uncalled for. He didn't need to do that." Anyway, we'll finish there. We'll read some of Gurudev's work tomorrow. Who's singing today?
Hari Hari Rama Krishna Yadavaya Nama.
Hari Hari Rama Krishna Yadavaya Nama. Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama. Gopala Govinda Ram Srimati Sundar. Chaitanya Jai Sapadikara Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Radha Giridharu Jiu Ki Jai. Jai Vishnu Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev-Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Vishnu Srila Bhakti Rakha Sri Dev-Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai. Rupanuk Guru Varg Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Samveda Vaishnav Mandal Ki Jai. Samveda Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat London Ki Jai. Sri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Nitai Go Premanandi Hari Bo. Kibu.